Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to day 82 of the Free to Hope presents 12 Steps Applied to COVID-19. Yes, FREE stands for From Recovery, Emerge, Empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. The 12 steps originated from the Alcoholics Anonymous Fellowship over 80 plus years ago. No, I do not represent Alcoholics Anonymous, but I've been a proud and humble member for over 30 years. No, 31, over 30 years. As a matter of fact, I celebrated 31 years on February the 23rd of 2021. Woo-hoo! To God be all the glory, but one day at a time. As a result of having 31 years free from drug addiction, alcoholism, prostitution, and the whole 9 yards, guess what? He also delivered me and 7 of my family members from COVID-19. Yes, 8 of us contracted it in November, suffered through it into December, and we survived it all. Again, to God be the glory. So you see why I've been prepared to be used by God, who selects broken, shattered, and wounded people to help rescue broken, wounded, and shattered people like you and like me. And for that, we need to give him the honor, the glory, the acknowledgement, the hallelujah for breathing life into us this moment, for waking us up this new day, because we know some are not going to be breathing and some are not going to wake up this morning. So we want to give homage. We want to give 30 seconds in a moment of silence for those who are still suffering from COVID-19, transitioned from COVID-19, loved ones left behind, from those who have been lost to COVID-19, those who are intervening on behalf of others from COVID-19, jeopardizing their lives and the lives of their loved ones from COVID-19. Yes, and for those who are doing the next right thing, those who are still in denial. In other words, we want to give 30 seconds, moment of silence for the entire human race, while we acknowledge the God who knows the beginning, the middle, and the end of COVID-19. But there is a solution. The solutions are in the 12 steps being applied to COVID-19. Join me for just 30 seconds, a moment of silence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can breathe. I can smell. I can taste. I can swallow. I can feel. I can touch. I can see. But the goal is to listen. And as a result of my higher power, who I choose to call God, I am so grateful, so humbled to share with you my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom of 31 years of practicing these principles in all my affairs, and 82 days of practicing these principles to COVID-19. And I just thank God for preparing me and instructing me and gave me that sense of obligation, duty, responsibility to help you get the same information, to help you save yourself, your family, your culture, your community, your city, your state, your country. And if we do this around the world simultaneously and holistically, we can, we will, we must stop the perpetuation of COVID-19, right? So I want to include my sponsors before we get started, because without them, I would not be able to increase my platform. And I want to demonstrate to you that we can participate in the CDC's simple suggestion, right, of wearing a mask, washing our hands, social distancing, um, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated. And so I want to present to you my sponsors. All right. They are Crafty Crab Seafood, where I had my 31st anniversary gathering where they practice social distancing, right? Free to Hope, Women Do Hall Transportation Services, Mr. C's Barbershop, Morgans of Delaware, Lady T at Morgans of Delaware, jewelry by Catherine Butler, and Divine Light, which I have on my face. See, we can share the information about how Divine Light coincides with Dr. Carl Jung, Dr. Bob, and Bill W. when they said back in the 1930s that people with the disease of alcoholism, the religious field and the medical field are limited. What we need is divine providence, divine intervention, and God led me to Divine Light. So they are one of my major sponsors. They are a drug and alcohol treatment center providing supportive housing for those who are in need. Okay. And also, I want to credit my resources, which is one of the reasons why I'm sitting here before you. An article by Dr. Scott T. Allison back in March the 31st of 2020 in Psychology Today. Also, Jason Waller. I extracted his template, his synopsis, his overview, and breaking down the 12 steps in the most simplistic form that even a child can understand. So I want to definitely give credit to the resources I have been using and will continue to use. April the 1st of 2020, if you want to go back to day one to see the introduction of the 12 steps being applied to COVID-19 as a result of Dr. Scott Allison's article. And if you want to see day one of me suffering from COVID-19 and also what it looks like, then I want you to be advised that you can be a part of the solution and a part of the problem. So again, I want to thank my sponsors, and I want to invite you, if you want to be a sponsor, you can by contacting me at edwina.bell@yahoo.com, 302-690-6679. And you can cash at me to $free to hope. This way I can increase my platforms on various social medias so that the information that we're sharing can continue to be free to the public. So sponsorship is important and is solicited. All right. Now, what I will also like to share with you is how back in April the 1st, it was Dr. Scott Allison's article, Dr. Scott T. Allison article that expressed 7 points and using the Al-Anon approach to combating COVID-19. Al-Anon used the same 12 spiritual principles that Alcoholics Anonymous use, Gamblers Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, Workaholics Anonymous, now COVID-19 Anonymous. They are 1, letting go of control, 2, patience, 3, keeping the focus on oneself, 4, trust, right? 5, living in the present, 6, social connections, and 7, being of service to others. And as a result of this information, April the 1st is when I started presenting and sitting before you, introducing to some, reminding others what the 12 spiritual principles are and we're applying them to COVID-19. One, we admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, and that only means soundness of mind. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others, even you. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others regarding COVID-19 and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So one of the things that is important for me to share with you is that I have been selected to lead by example, by attraction, because 31 years ago, underneath a parked car, God knew that I was ready, and he knew that I had a made-up mind. Why? Because he commanded it, and he demanded it, and I yield, and haven't looked back since. And so when we talk about applying the 12 steps that are spiritual in nature, that will address and challenge our old and existing attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, where they started, where they were formulated, how they impacted, affected our lives and the lives of others, and to realize that they are no longer working for us. Therefore, these 12 spiritual principles will challenge us to, through a spiritual experience, which will bring about a spiritual awakening, which will bring about a spiritual transformation, increase our spiritual maturity to achieve a psychic change that will help us to apply these 12 spiritual principles to all of our physical conditions, including COVID-19. And so as a result, I want to demonstrate to you that I, now having been granted with 7 other family members to survive COVID-19 just by wearing a mask, washing our hands, social distancing, getting tested, right? Contact tracing, and getting vaccinated. And so I need to also show you that I am awaiting my second vaccine shot. So I'm from Missouri. Let me show you. Attraction, lead by example. And that's what all of us should be doing if we are leaders, if we are protectors, if we are responsible for those God has put in our lives. So it starts with us, and we can be an attraction to others. As a result of sharing that, what I would like to do and share with you, as a result of celebrating 31 years on February the 23rd, today and tomorrow, I tried to do it the other day, but it didn't work. However, because the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I am going to present to you a little bit of footage that describes how I present when I'm in public, when I'm on different platforms, when I am engaging in meetings and have been asked to be a guest speaker and to just share my experience, my strength, my hope. And to also let you know that what you see here, if you go back to my page, when I opened up, you will see what COVID-19 looked like on me. Here I am right there, okay? And the transformation, that picture where I was sickly, I had a body ache that felt like a toothache. I had my dentures out. Yes, I took all those masks off and I was able to put on the mask that's designed to save my life. So before we go into our recovery conversation, I am still in the celebratory mode of my 31 years in recovery, and I want to share a part of my journey with you. All right. And so I want to share with you how I started my wearing the mask, emphasizing the need to take the mask off, and the importance of going back to our history to find out where attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were formulated. Now, this small testimony talks about those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors that started when I was a child in the environment of my family, and the behaviors and actions, decisions, and choices I made as a result of being in that environment. So listen carefully and see if you can identify. So here's a little bit of my testimony.
I'm Edwina B, originally from Philadelphia, now residing in Wilmington, Delaware for the last 29 and a half years. And many of you don't recognize me because I usually wear short hair. But today I put on my mask, if you will, because I want to share my testimony of how I don't look like what I've been through. What you see now is not how I looked almost 29 and a half years ago while underneath a parked car. Yes, underneath a parked car. God delivered me from crack cocaine, alcoholism, prostitution. I even committed murder as a prostitute. I had an abortion, and I couldn't forgive myself for 10 years. But you ask, how did you get underneath that car? Well, I'm not going to say you have to buy the book to read why, because it's not there. This book talks about the journey that ensued when God met me underneath the parked car, prepared me while underneath the parked car, brought me from underneath the parked car to sit in front of you today to let you know that people with mental illness and substance abuse, we do recover. With God, everything is possible. And so I just want to spend a little bit of time with you, not long, just to give you a brief synopsis of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So, at the age of 5, 6, 7 years old, being in an environment in a household where there were drugs and smoking and alcohol and other promiscuous behaviors going on. And as a child, we thought that was fascinating. So we didn't know that the seed was planted then. And slowly but surely, as I began to grow up with my other 5 siblings, we began to pretend that we were adults, smoking the cigarettes, drinking the glass with our little pinky up, playing house, playing like we was on stage, like Tina Turner, Diana Ross, and the like. And lo and behold, slowly but surely, those little bit of drinks that we were given as children turned into little cups. Then those cups turned into little cans. Then those cans turned into little bottles. And then those bottles led to cigarettes. And then those cigarettes led to marijuana. And then the marijuana led to other things like cocaine, pills, the whole 9 yards, because we wanted to be like the adults. We didn't know anything about the consequences of our behavior. However, we do recall as a child some of those things going real bad when people started cutting each other up, they started fighting, they started turning tables over, and we had no idea it was because of the drinks and what they were smoking that changed their behavior. And so lo and behold, that happened to me. So as I continued to grow, Into my adolescence, I hung around my peers and I wanted to be the center of attention. So I also was a tomboy trying to get my dad's attention. So there was a lot of things that contributed to me becoming a full-blown alcoholic and crackhead. But I must say the first drug that I became addicted to was getting attention. Getting attention. And I say that because most of us want to be loved, want to be embraced, want to be hugged. And so when we don't get those things and we see other people get them, well, we wonder, well, how come I'm not getting them and what can I do to get them? And so somebody like me who's always watching what you're doing, we hear what y'all say, but we watch what you do. So I watch my mother do a lot of behavioral things that enticed my dad and it got his attention. So I said to myself, if I act like that, maybe I'll get my dad's attention. And that carried on into my adult life, which is why I married 3 men that were older than me. The first one was 13 years older than me. The second was 25 years older than me. And the third one was 38 years older than me. My son said, Mom, when are you going to deal with your men issues? You went from daddy to granddaddy to great-granddaddy. But guess what? To God be the glory, I am dealing with my men issues. I don't have any.
So I hope you just not just enjoyed it, because enjoying it means you were inspired, you were educated, you were informed if you listened closely. As I described where attitudes, ideas, and behaviors was first formulated, by whom and in what environment. And if you also listened, you could see the seed of unknowingly alcoholism being planted, right? Very innocently given by the adults in our family, thinking it was cute, right? And if you also heard, you would have heard me say that watching adults, we hear what you say, but we watch what you do. So I learned to listen to the behavior and not what you say. And it was important as children to imitate behaviors of adults, both good and bad. What can I say? But it seemed like the bad ones appeared to be more entertaining and more exciting, and there was something sneaky about it, and a feeling of getting away with something that nobody knows, right? And so if you listened, you could see the progression from the alcohol to the smoking to the marijuana to the pills to the other hardcore drugs, and eventually to crack cocaine. Yes. And what I wanted you to really hone in on was the first drug that I became addicted to is attention. Yes. And so when we look at applying these 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19, how can we get attention if we're wearing a mask? You can't see my pearly white teeth. You can't see my genuine makeup, huh? Because I want attention. I want everybody to look at me, huh? And that's why doing that fourth step, that's why me contributing to contracting COVID-19, that seed is still there. It ain't went nowhere, because I had the information that I'm sharing with you now, but did not use it. And so it goes to demonstrate all the masks that we have been wearing from way, way back, and getting the attention and affection from those who are around us. And if they didn't give it to us, we went outside and got it, right? So as you heard, I had a problem. Well, I ain't gonna have a problem. It was my process. I had an idea that if my dad don't want me, my dad don't love me, my dad don't like me, guess what? Then I'll get me an older man, not knowing I was saying that, but my pattern demonstrated that the three men in my life that were all older than me, I was still seeking my daddy's attention, his affection, right? And so that's why I implore you to get involved in the 12 steps so you can share a similar story like I just showed you on how it all started, how it is continuing, and what we need to do to be a part of the solution, obtain that spiritual transformation, to get that psychic change so we can take off all those masks that are designed to take our lives, because they only feed the flesh, and put on the mask that's designed to save lives. Sort of like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they teach us to stay sober one day at a time and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. I'll show you maybe another one before we close out. I'm not sure, but I just hope that you listened and you go back and you share what you just reviewed with somebody else in order to plant a seed and to save a life. Because in our recovery of Alcoholics Anonymous program, they say some of us must die in order for some of us to live. They say that all human beings are ill to some extent in one way, shape, form, or fashion. And all human beings, as Dr. Scott T. Allison said, can benefit from the wisdom of the 12 steps. So let's continue with our recovery conversation in the steps. So we are going to conclude, I believe, recovery principle number 6. And so just let me review with you what we've done so far between 1 and 5, okay? So I'm going to more or less go through them, not quickly, but the information is already posted and recorded on my previous archives. So I need you to go back to as far back as April the 1st of 2020 or day 1 of 82 to see the information in the 12 steps being applied to COVID-19. So this is what we covered so far. 1, we admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Okay. 4, we made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. And so that's what you just saw on the screen, where I shared with you where those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were formulated by whom and the character defects that they provided. And so I know that as a child and watching and observing the actions of the adults, and also battling competition with attention and affection with my 5 siblings missing, I know I learned how to be competitive. I learned how to be defiant. I learned how to be rebellious. I learned how to be jealous. I learned how to be conniving. I learned how to be promiscuous. I learned how to be stubborn. I learned how to be selfish. I learned how to be self-centered. I learned to have a attitude of being invincible. So all of those character defects that were formulated as a child into my adult only perpetuated the more when I indulged in drinking and drugging. So once we put down the drink, the drug, then we go back to those character defects that prompted us to start drinking in the first place. Does that make sense? That we get to use these 12 spiritual principles to go inside and finally reveal what's been concealed for so long. We want to empty this garbage can. We want to empty this trash can. We want to have a release of that diarrhea experience. Yes, we want to be set free from recovery, emerge empowered for the purpose of giving hope to others, help others prosper equally. So if those 12 steps can help to help to keep people like me sober and to help others, then guess what? If we apply it to COVID-19, it can help me stay COVID-19 free and not affect or infect other people, particularly my loved ones. So why wouldn't I want to apply these same spiritual principles to COVID-19? Okay, so the next one and the final one before we go to 6 was admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. So when I did my 5th step, my second 5th step, I told you, you have to go back into my archives to hear the story of me selecting a man out of cloth, right? That didn't turn out too good because I had ulterior motives. But I did my 5th step with my sponsor, and I recently did it with someone else regarding this COVID-19 to help me get to the exact nature. Edwina, why with this information were you still defiant, rebellious? Why were you still stubborn? Why did you have that attitude of being invincible? Why didn't you continuously wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance? Why, Edwina? Did you miss something? Well, let's go back and examine since God spared your life. And maybe, just maybe, somebody out there will listen to what you did wrong and they can do right and for the right reason. All right. So now we are going to go through recovery principle number 6 that we've been sharing about so far. And so we know that in the 6th step, I found out some additional information about my character defects and getting to the exact nature, right? And that I had a resentment against COVID-19. A resentment is a character defect. Anger is a character defect, but the resentment was masked by anger, masked by uncertainty, masked by confusion, masked by frustration, masked by disbelief, and ultimately the exact nature was fear. I had a resentment against myself after I contracted COVID-19 and infected members of my family. I felt stupid. I was defiant. I was rebellious. I was selfish. I was self-centered. I had regrets. I experienced remorse. And the exact nature was fear. What if my grandson, who is 2 years old, would have died? What would have happened if my 2 8-year-olds would have died as a result of my stupidity that was camouflaged by stubbornness and defiance? And the exact nature was I was more on image time, trying to save my face and not my behind. So you see how important it is to get to the exact nature of those character defects regarding COVID-19. What is hindering you from doing the simple suggestions of washing your hands, wearing a mask, social distancing, contact tracing, getting tested, and getting vaccinated? What's hindering you? Only you can answer that question, but through the 12 steps that are spiritual in nature, you can find out the answer. Don't you want to know about you? Don't you want to become who God destined you to be? Don't you want to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem? All right. So let's find out what Jason Waller had to say regarding these character defects. And, there are some that both of us, all of us, have, and we're going to ask you the question and ask you this simple question as to what happens. Hold on, y'all. I'm getting it together. Hold on. I'm getting it together. So when we go up here and we send out this, you will see the question posed by Charles Du Bois in terms of the 6th step. The 6th step says, as a result of identifying our character defects, of getting to the exact nature of all those defects of character, Are we entirely ready to have the Creator, the God who gave us natural instincts from the beginning, know which ones have far exceeded their intended purpose and therefore is the only one who can remove them? And so the question that is posed to us in this statement by Charles DeBoer says, we want to be able at any moment to sacrifice what we are for what we could become. Do you realize that as a result of me contributing to contracting COVID-19, that I would sacrifice any and everything, right, of what I was and those negative attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, right, for what I could become to save my life and save the lives of my loved ones and possibly even save yours. So we know that the COVID-19 pandemic and that living organism, if we put our guard down for one moment, 1 second, don't wear the mask, don't wash your hands, don't social distance, right? We can contract COVID-19 just like that. And some, like 6 members of my family, were asymptomatic. They didn't have no symptoms. Me and my 2-year-old were the only ones who had symptoms. So you better believe when I talk about wanting to become what I should become as a result of practicing these 12 spiritual principles, applying it to COVID-19, taking the CDC suggestions, then I can become a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. So any character defects that you may have, such as the ones that I'm going to remind you that all of us do have, and you will see that we are not unique. When we say every human being is ill to some extent, we mean just that. And so here, why is my something's going on, but you know what? I'm going to practice some patience. Let me go back here, because y'all know me. I listen. I'll stop in a minute. So here are some character defects that all of us share to one form, degree, or fashion: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, sloth, anger, resentment, dishonesty, defiance, rebellion. Can you name some of your character defects that you would like to be removed? And once we identify all the character defects that we know of, but our higher power, our God, knows all of them, then we will realize that the exact nature of them all is fear itself. So we want to be able to address any and all those character defects and to have them removed by the Creator who gave us our natural instincts in the beginning. All right. So let me go over here. I might have to get my mouse, because some things is going on, but I'm not going to let it deter me. All right. So these are some of the questions that we went over, that we examined, that we asked ourselves. And this is just a review, because in a 12-step program, review is essential, and it helps us to be reminded, but it also helps us to go to the next level as well. And we want to be able to share this information with as many people as possible. So in order for you to be encouraged, to be inspired to do these steps, particularly step 6, that will prepare you to have the God, the Creator of us all, remove any and everything that stops you from taking these simple suggestions of the CDC, right? So the first question that Jason Waller uses in his bout with alcohol and drug addiction, and I too, are: what are your fears about doing a 6-step? What does it mean that a higher power can remove them? What is your responsibility? Do you believe you can change? Have you changed so far? These are some of the questions that normally no one would even ask you, right? No one asks you about character defects. What are those? No one asks you about, getting in touch with those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors that caused you problems over your life? Nobody, right? So that's why we are posing these questions by using Jason Waller's template so that you can see the importance and the benefit of doing all of these steps. And they all have a spiritual angle to be applied to any and all physical conditions. So yesterday we talked about, are there some of your character defects that you enjoy too much and that give you pleasure? Okay, we talked about that yesterday, right? And we also talked about how, are there any character defects that you think cannot be removed? Are you willing to have all of them removed? If not, why? So in order for you to go back and review what was discussed and how we exchanged information, because hopefully you at home recording this or doing the exercise, and me injecting my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom to COVID-19, my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, my lack of wisdom, my bad choices, my bad decisions, my bad behaviors, my bad actions. Then that's why these 12 spiritual principles are important. So let's go to, I believe, the final two questions by Jason Waller before we conclude recovery principle number 6. All right. So the first one says here, okay. Number 7. It says, how does surrender help with step 6? How does surrender help with step 6? So if we think about step 6, how does surrender help with becoming entirely ready to have God remove all our defects of character? So what does surrender have to do with and be applied to the 6th step? So think about it. Now, when we in Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs, and we are on step 6, we are given certain scenarios to kind of help us understand in its fullest implication what they're talking about. Okay, so we know that from a man's point of view, surrender has a negative connotation, right? So we remember the white flag, and we remember the cowboys and Indians, and we remember people holding their hands up, I give up type of thing, right? But when we come to a 12-step program that is spiritual in nature, then we need to find out the spiritual meaning of surrender. So look at that question again, right? It says, how does surrender help with the 6th step? How does surrender help? So if I, through 4 and 5, became aware, knowledgeable, convinced of the character defects that have been with me as long as I can remember, even up until now, and they are not going to go away until God removes them, right? And so that means no matter how much I think I have patience or tolerance and don't get angry and all that kind of stuff, well, until he removes them, they will rear their ugly heads. And so when I think about how does surrender help, do you hear the word help? Surrender is the action, right? Help is the outcome or the process too, right? So how does surrender help towards the 6th step? So when I think about surrender, in a spiritual realm, we are surrendering to win. Spiritually, look at what we're saying. If the God who created us all, who knows the middle, the beginning, the middle, and the end of this COVID-19 pandemic, won't be the first pandemic, it wasn't the first, it won't be the last. Okay, so when we think about this creator who is responsible for all his children, all of his creation, how many of us think and believe that we are in charge of our lives, that we got it going on, that we know what's best for us? I'm talking about you, but I'm talking about me. That's how I thought. That's how I think. That's how I can still think. That's why I contributed to contracting COVID-19. I failed to surrender spiritually. Because I wanted to wear my makeup and I wanted to wear this and I wanted to keep on all those masks and not put on the mask designed to save my life. How egotistical, prideful, self-centered selfishness are you? So when I say, how does surrender help doing the 6th step? So I listen, I want you to get to the exact question. How does surrender help with, with, not separate from, not distracted, not detached. How does surrender help with? There's a partnership with step 6. So step 6 says we're entirely ready to have God remove all our defects of character. So if I am in a surrendering stance, have adopted a spiritual understanding of surrender, and I use it to help me with step 6, there's no fight. There's no battle. There's no resistance. There's no hesitation. There's no doubt. There's no refusion. There are no reservations. How does surrender help with the 6th step? That means that when, I'm getting ready to cry. That song, I surrender all. I surrender all. I surrender all. Underneath that parked car at the age of 34 on September the 22nd of 1990. Through that humiliating experience, it was so humiliating to be underneath a parked car. I put myself underneath that parked car. After getting high and doing all kinds of sexual favors with my stepson of one of the older men I married. And underneath that parked car, I'm telling you, my surrender did not come from my mental capacity. Because every time I thought I was ready to stop, my mind would play tricks on me. It will tell me, Edwina, you're not that bad. You'll be okay. You're just going through a little something. So I could not rely on my mental capacity for my surrender. I couldn't even rely on my emotional capacity for my surrender. No, because when I would see my children walk past me and they don't see me because I'm hiding behind the bushes, I don't want them to see me that way. So I look from afar. One time looking for me, I got in the closet on the floor and put clothes on top of me because I didn't want my mother to see me. And as she looked out the window while I'm in the closet on the floor with clothes on top of me, I could see her looking and shaking her head. And I wanted to cry out, "Mommy, here I am," but I couldn't. I couldn't. I didn't want her to see me like that. And so every time I felt those kind of emotions, it wasn't a matter of stopping or turning my life around. It was a matter of getting high again to forget those emotions. So I couldn't rely on my emotions for my surrender. No, I could not. They played tricks on me too. I believe, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the surrender that I experienced on February the 22nd of 1990 was the spiritual surrender to the God who reserved a spot in each and every one of his creations. That no matter what life deals, no matter what we go through, there is a spot reserved just for the Creator. That when we call him in, when we had that knee bowing experience, oftentimes through utter humiliation, that spirit within cries out, "Help me, help me, help me." And that's what I cried out. I didn't know that was a spiritual surrender at the time. I just wanted to die. Oh, I wanted this God that I didn't know to take me out this life right at that moment, or show me a better way. So that's what I mean by having that spiritual surrender. And if that spiritual surrender helped the God of my understanding remove that obsession and that compulsion for drinking and drugging, if he removed that obsession and compulsion, then he can remove any and all things. So that's how I relate to how surrender helps with the step, just by that example. So you know that when I contracted COVID-19 and watched my grandchildren go through it too, I had a rude awakening because I was relying on my mental capacity to deal with COVID-19. I was relying on my emotional capacity regarding COVID-19, but I didn't rely on my spiritual capacity regarding COVID-19. And I know that there are family members listening to me right now who are going through the if I coulda, woulda, shoulda, who may be on their dying bed right now. If I only wore the mask, if I only washed my hands, if. And I'm going to say that it's not too late. It's not too late. If you are in the reach of my voice, it's not too late. It's not too late. If you're still breathing, if you still can smell, it's not too late to present yourself in a spiritual surrender stance and apply these 12 recovery principles to stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. So how does surrender? No, how does spiritual surrender help with removing, being ready to have all these character defects removed so that I won't contract COVID-19, I won't infect my loved ones, I won't even infect you. And we know that the vaccination only decreases the severity of the symptoms should we contract COVID-19. I shared with you what I looked like when I had COVID-19. Look at his face, huh? Here it is. Look at it. Let me bring it up. What is, okay. Huh? See? I ain't got my dentures in. That's why I tell y'all I am transparent. I am transparent. I wanted, the God that I serve wanted y'all to see what it looks like. Huh? So if you go to December the 3rd or December the 4th, and on my homepage, you will see the start and the beginning of me sharing my experience, my strength, my hope with you, what COVID-19 looks like on me. And also to share with you, the process of recovery by applying these 12 spiritual principles. Okay? And so when we say that, yes, let's get back to the question. When we say that, how does surrender help with step 6? Now you know why from my point of view. Now, let's go to the last question, which says, what actions can you take to show that you are entirely ready? What actions, what actions can you take? You hear me? Present. What actions can you take in getting ready for recovery principle number 6? What actions can you take to show that you are ready? What actions can you take to show that you are ready? Only you can answer that. What actions? Did you listen? That's an action. Did you listen to learn? That's an action. When you listen to learn, you apply. That's an action. When you apply it to your attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, those are actions. So we want to challenge you with Jason Waller's questions regarding recovery principle number 6. What actions can you take? And I'm going to say now, today, to make a difference, to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. What actions? Whew, okay, all right, let me stop. So, okay. If it's God's will that he breathes life into us tomorrow for day 83, and he wakes us up tomorrow for day 83, we will conclude recovery principle number 6. Yes, we're entirely ready to have God remove all character defects that stands in the way of us using the simple suggestions outlined by the CDC. Wash your hands, wear your mask, social distance, contact tracing, get tested, and get vaccinated. So until we are reunited, let me again thank my sponsors. Okay. And let's go all the way back. And I hope that you are sharing this information with as many people as possible so that they too can learn and they too can apply. So I want to thank my sponsors. The first one is Crafty Crab, right? The second one is Free to Hope. Women Do Haul Transportation Services, Mr. C's Barbershop, Morgans of Delaware, right? So you get to see this information of the sponsors, and I encourage you to become a sponsor. Give credit to the resources that I use, Dr. Scott T. Allison and Jason Waller, breaking down the steps. So if you want to become a sponsor, please do so by contacting me with the information that is listed on the screen. All right. And so, on behalf of me celebrating uh, 31 years as of February the 23rd of 2021. I thank God that I've been prepared to be used by Him just to touch one soul. One soul can touch another, and we can stop the perpetuation of COVID-19. One person, one family, one culture, one community, one city, one county, one state, one country at a time. So, are you being proactive, reactive, inactive, or responsible regarding COVID-19? Are you in the prevention mode, intervention mode, or restoration mode of COVID-19? Only you can answer that question. Until we meet again, if it's God's will, be safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, right? Get tested, contact tracing. And most importantly, schedule that vaccine shot.